Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. My name is Martin Kölling. I'm the moderator of today, and I apologize for the slight delay. We are 5 minutes late almost, but now we will start our event. First, I would like to ask everybody here in the room to switch off your cell phones or put them on manner mode out of courtesy to our guest. Yeah, today we welcome Mark Karpeles again. He was here before on several occasions talking to us about his experiences as CEO of Mt. Gox, the biggest crypto exchange in the beginning of the 2010s, and also it became also famous to be the first big bankruptcy of a crypto exchange in 2014 after losing, I think it was 850,000 Bitcoin around about.
Actually, we recovered 200,000, so 350,000 was lost.
Mm-hmm. But in that time, it was 850,000. He filed for bankruptcy in 2014. He was later arrested and convicted to a suspended prison term for doctoring data, but he was acquitted of a bunch of other accusations, claims that would have awarded him a much longer time in jail, if I remember correctly. Yeah, doing the math, I think this event is very timely. We are commemorating the 10th anniversary of the bankruptcy of Mt. Gox. And furthermore, I think end of this month, there's also a deadline for the repayment of some of the funds.
Yes.
But you will talk about this later.
Yes.
So today he will give us a short update on what's going on at Mt. Gox, and also he will also talk about his future plans and what he thinks about Japan as a playground for cryptocurrency and crypto exchanges. Japan, the government wanted to become a world leader and pioneer in cryptocurrencies, and I also wonder how Japan is doing in this regard. Okay, now I would like to open the floor to Mark, and please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Yes, okay, so I will start with a little bit of an update with Mt. Gox because it's been 10 years since the bankruptcy started. To be quite honest, 10 years ago when we filed for bankruptcy, I didn't expect things to turn out the way they turned, which is actually on the positive side, because 10 years ago, we were in a situation where Mt. Gox was hacked. We didn't know who did the hacking. We didn't know how to repay customers, and there were a lot of unknowns. In the following years, we actually found out one of the persons who was behind the hacking, Alexander Vinnik, who was arrested in 2017 in Greece, spent a few years in France in jail before going to the US, and actually this year pled guilty to the charges he was arrested for. So that's one side that has been solved. And at the same time, starting the end of last year, we started seeing money repaid from the Mt. Gox estate to the customers. So that's actually 200,000 Bitcoins that were found in 2014, right after the bankruptcy, which at the time was not that much compared to the estate. Like it was 1/5 of the Bitcoins, but with the increase of the price of Bitcoin, it actually meant that Mt. Gox was able to repay all the customers 5 to 10 times on more their initial deposit. We still have some years to go, I think, on the bankruptcy itself, but creditors were able to decide whether to file for an immediate payment or for payment at the end of the bankruptcy. So for everyone who filed for initial lump sum payments, I believe payments have been made, except people that didn't provide their bank account correctly. We've seen a lot of people not receiving their funds because of a wrong bank account number, or bank account has changed between the time they filed and the payment. So this is actually, there was a deadline to provide the correct information by the end of this month, which was actually pushed to the end of last year, the end of next year. So if you're a Mongox customer and you still haven't provided your updated banking information, that's probably also a good thing to do. So during those past 10 years, actually, I spent a lot of time thinking about what happened with Mongox and how things could be improved. And I was, in a way, happy at the time because Mongox brought a lot of attention in crypto in Japan. And we've seen the FSA in Japan bring up new regulations and create an environment that would be good for new crypto exchanges and innovation, which was alive for about 4 years, because actually Mongox, 4 years later, we had the another big event in Japan, the hack of CoinCheck, which after which the government stopped mostly giving new licenses. If you go on the FSA website and look at the list of crypto exchanges, you will see that all the restrictions are basically during this 4-year period, and there are almost no new exchanges after that. So that's, I believe, a little bit sad, but it's also a good thing in a way because it helps Japan protect people a bit more. So people in Japan who are customers of FTX, for example, were not affected by the bankruptcy in the US because of the regulations we have in Japan. But at the same time, it means that it's very difficult to create a crypto exchange. From what I hear from people inside the industry, being a crypto exchange in Japan right now is not profitable. So most crypto exchanges in Japan are losing money because of the regulation, because they cannot innovate and provide access to new cryptocurrencies and so on as much as they'd like. So I do think there's a balance to be gotten between innovation and regulation. That's a recurring theme in Japan. I hear that things are getting a little bit better, but there's still a lot to do on that point. And as for me, I've also continued looking into new technologies, and especially one of my focus during this past 10 years was to find a way that something like Mongox wouldn't happen again. And I do think that now the technology we have in terms of cryptocurrencies, specifically I'm thinking about what we call multi-party computation, MPC, is a technology that actually, if it existed at the time of Mongox, the bankruptcy wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have been hacked. So I'm actually launching a crypto exchange again, not in Japan because the regulations are not allowing new exchanges right now, so it's not possible. I wish I could open in Japan too. But right now we've opened in Poland, which was another country where Mongox was operating. And I'm building things the way things should have been actually with Mongox. So I'm using my experience of years of running Mongox and seeing how things happened and what went wrong and how it went wrong to try to build something better. The goal is really to focus on security and transparency. Mongox, of course, was also focusing on security, but we didn't have the technology, as I said, we have today. And transparency is also a very important point for crypto exchanges, which I believe is still missing today for exchanges worldwide. Of course, there are a lot of unregulated exchanges. We have some regulated exchanges in the US, in Japan, of course, and in Europe, actually, we have the new MICA, usually I call it MICA regulation, which starts next year, and that is, I believe, right now the state-of-the-art in terms of regulation for crypto exchanges worldwide. So I'm really hoping that Japan will also look at what's happening in Europe and maybe warm again a little bit for crypto exchanges. What I also did with this new company is to release a wallet. That may seem like there are tons of wallets out there, but the thing I've seen is same thing. During those 10 years I've been involved with various cryptocurrency projects. When you create a wallet with MetaMask or Phantom or any standard wallet today, typically you will be needed to, you will be asked to write on paper 12 or 24 words, which are actually very important because those words actually are the key to all the assets you put into the wallet. About 80 to 90% of the people who don't know anything about cryptocurrencies, which I introduce and which install their wallet for the first time, will either lose the paper or take a picture of it, which is, the whole point of putting on paper is that there's no digital version of it. So there are things that for people involved in crypto are, we know it's not good, but that for normal people, it's just not, when you start into crypto and we ask you to write on a piece of, word on a piece of paper and then protect it with your life, it's not the best user experience. So using the same technology, MPC, I've built a system that allows setting up a wallet the same way bank account is set up. So you choose a password, put your phone number, receive the SMS, confirm it, and do the Face ID verification with your phone, and you're ready to go. There's no thing to write on paper, and it's actually a lot safer. That's we have, of course, a lot more things planned. I actually, since the Mongo bankruptcy, I didn't expect to be involved in crypto again, but I've had a lot of people coming from the industry and trying to come to me and telling me to come back to make use of the experience I've accumulated with Mongox. And I hesitated during the past 10 years, but with the payments finally going through and things starting to settle on Mongox, I believe it's time for me to turn the page and make, improve, but to use the experience I've accumulated to make things more user-friendly and more secure in the crypto industry. I think I covered everything. I didn't go through a personal introduction, but I guess that's fine.
Okay. Okay. So
Yes.
If you are finished, okay, thank you very much for your short. Or do you still have
I
some?
can probably add some more.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
If you have some more to add, please.
So yes, right now, as explained, ElipX is the new crypto exchange we launched in Poland. We're actually working on getting the licenses in the US and in other countries. I really wanted to get the license in Japan, so that's something we have on. We have hired lawyers to get it done at some time, but right now, as I said, the government is not allowing new registrations. It's a little bit complex. It's a very Japanese way of doing things because you can apply for a license, and there's a lot of applications that were made in the past 6 to 10 years, actually 6 to 8 years, but none have been approved. It just stays pending, and sometimes I've seen people submit hundreds of pages of documentation, and everything is done exactly by the book as required, and there's just no response. So that's one thing. I mean, we know how it works in Japan. I just hoped that it will get easier to get into the industry again, because I think it's a bit of a shame that we're in Japan. We actually, with Mongox, we are the first large cryptocurrency exchange worldwide based in Japan. And I believe the regulations that were created after the Mongox bankruptcy were going in a good direction. So I really hoped that we'd see more new technologies and more things built into Japan. What I've seen instead, I've worked for different companies. I made my own company in Japan, open in 2019, Karpeles lab, where I do development and consulting work for different companies. That includes also cryptocurrency-related work for public companies in Japan. And most companies in Japan that want to go into crypto will create a subsidiary overseas, because the regulation in Japan are either too costly or too difficult to go through. And that's how things are today. But I do believe that's not a good state of affairs for businesses in Japan. So ideally, I don't know how it's going to be possible. I'm open to help any way I can, and I will try, with Elipex, we will try to get the license in Japan and push the regulator to be maybe more open to things. But that's something that's my strengths alone, or even just one company pushing in one direction, is not going to be enough. So hopefully we will see other companies in Japan. I mean, I do know there are quite a few ones pushing for regulations to be more open, but we will continue pushing to that direction. And yeah, do we have any?
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. And then I will open the floor to questions. If you don't have any questions in the beginning, I can ask a few questions myself. My first question is, why does the world need another exchange? I mean, there are plenty of exchanges around. Why do we need another one?
That's actually a very good question. If we look, for example, at different rating sites, we can see there's a list of exchanges. There are hundreds of exchanges, actually. Typically, the top 4 or 5 exchanges are actual companies. So you will have Coinbase, Binance, the big names, basically. But 90% of the list are either companies that are incorporated in small islands, or there's just no company behind it, which actually is quite misleading, because you would think that there's a huge market with a large number of exchanges. There's actually only a handful of, how would you say that, maybe regulated exchanges that actually implement anti-money laundering and will cater to a customer base that are investors, people who want to do technical development, and innovators. And you have 90% catering to a crowd that is more interested into avoiding regulations, or sometimes avoiding financial blockade from the US, for example, as we've seen with North Korea or Russia. So there's actually a big hole, I believe, into the cryptocurrency world, especially right now in Europe. We don't have any big exchange. We have in the US with Coinbase, but a few other ones. We have a lot of exchanges based coming from China. That would be Binance, OKX, and there's a few other ones. But Europe doesn't really have a big exchange that's standing out. And while I live in Japan, I wanted to be able to do that from Japan. I'm also French, which make it one reason for me to also run this from Europe at first, while focusing on becoming a global exchange.
Mm-hmm. Please introduce yourself by name and affiliation.
Hi, I'm Emma Cherian, freelancer. My question is, obviously, with a very different reason from the recent collapse of FTX, Mongox was hacked. But the impact, I think at that time, it occupied probably 70 to 80% of the market. So as a pioneer in the space, could you share with us what you see have changed in this 10-year period? What are the major developments in the crypto space? And how your new, I mean, you mentioned a little bit, but how your new venture fit into this place? And what you also probably see, the future, what you would like to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, there's a lot of things that changed in the past 10 years. We've seen regulations appear. When Mongox was operating, there were absolutely no regulations. When we went to the Japanese FSA to ask, is Bitcoin regulated by the FSA and how do we operate as an exchange? It took more than 1 year for the FSA to respond that Bitcoin is not a financial asset, so they cannot respond to us. So that was a little bit of a gray response, which actually I believe that view changed a lot after the Mongox bankruptcy. But after that, we've seen regulations appear first in New York in the US and in other places, Singapore, even like Micronesia, and more recently Europe. So we're really seeing something that was a new technology. There was only either very savvy investors or people involved into the technology itself, only that are involved. And today we're seeing a lot more involvement into both standard cryptocurrencies, but also more advanced technologies like smart contracts and ordinals, different things that are coming on with different cryptocurrencies. What I'm really seeing at the same time is cryptocurrencies becoming more available to the standard user. At the beginning, cryptocurrencies were very much either something you would use maybe for some very specific online payments, or just to learn about the technology, or as an investment. But we're seeing an increase into payments using blockchain technology. While there have been different attempts to build something with blockchains, and there have been successful attempts, there have been less successful things, I'm personally quite happy to see things going in different directions, because I believe that as long as we don't try something, we don't know if it's going to work or not. But the overall direction I'm seeing, and the direction I'm pushing to at the same time, is trying to make cryptocurrencies more accessible, easier to use in a safe way for everyone. And that's one of the focus we're having with Elibex, which is allowing our users to access crypto markets to get Bitcoins or whichever currencies they want to get, and store it into a wallet that's controlled by themselves, but at the same time that is safe enough so that if they lose their mobile phone or something happens, they're not going to lose their crypto. And at the same time, that is easy to set up by using a setup similar to what we see with banks. I do believe that the direction things will continue this direction, trying to make things easier to use and more accessible. While it did take some time, I do think we're going to see the ability to pay with crypto and also more usages, especially in terms of smart contracts of online payments and different things. I remember, for example, a few years ago, there was the ability at the big camera not so far from here to pay with Bitcoin. And I did wonder about it, so I went there with a wallet and I tried to buy something. And actually, the cashier didn't know where the device was for the payments. They had to ask someone. They found it, but it was discharged, so they had to plug it. Then they didn't know how to use it, so I ended up just paying by card. But it goes to show that there's still a big role in terms of usability, even for shops, which is slowly getting taken down.
Okay, I have here two questions from one of our online viewers.
Yes.
Rocky Swift from Reuters asks, are you repaying Mt. Gox customers in actual Bitcoin or some other currency? If it's Bitcoin, what is the total amount that you are putting back in the market?
So there are actually two options for Mongox customers who hold Bitcoin to choose from. They can either choose to receive Bitcoins as Bitcoins, which means they would receive about 18%, I think 16 to 18% of the Bitcoins they had at the time. Or they can ask to receive directly as cash, in which case the trustee would sell the Bitcoins to make the payment in cash. Mongox, when the bankruptcy started, had about 200,000 Bitcoins. Actually, when the bankruptcy moved to a civil rehabilitation back in 2018, the trustee sold about 1/4 of this, so about 50,000 Bitcoins, which resulted in about 600 million yen. $600 million of yen. It's getting a little bit complex with Japanese payment amounts. So there are still about 149,000 Bitcoins that are being distributed to end users. So that's quite a large amount, but we have seen, of course, some activity on the market responding to those Bitcoins going back on the market. It was a very small change, at least much smaller than what a lot of people try to make it seem in the different news that led to the distribution.
And do you know how many former customers opted for cash payment and for Bitcoin payments?
Unfortunately, I do not have access to this information because it's managed by the court and the trustee. But I do believe that the majority of users have chosen to get payments in Bitcoin from discussion with the creators and information I've received.
Okay. And Rocky has another question. Are you still in touch with Carlos Ghosn, he asks. If so, are you still in touch with Carlos Ghosn? If so, what he's up to? And perhaps planning a comeback like yours?
Unfortunately, no, I'm not in touch with Carlos Ghosn since he left Japan. So I only met him, I think, once or twice while in Japan to discuss a few things over dinner. But the discussion actually didn't go the way I was thinking it went, because when we talked about what's happening to him, I told him that I'm the living proof that you can get an innocent verdict in Japan. It would take time. For me, it took, from arrest to the verdict, it took 4 years. Arrested in 2015, verdict in 2019. But I think actually this led him to decide really to leave Japan more than stay.
Okay. Another question from the floor? Otherwise, I will ask another question. You mentioned that there is no big exchange in Europe. Can you explain why?
I think there are different reasons for that. The biggest one being that there was no defined regulation until actually next year, which meant that if anyone wanted to create an exchange and advertise in Europe, it would be very difficult because they could typically advertise in their own country, but getting outside would be very difficult. So it was an environment that was a little bit difficult. Compared to that, exchanges based in China, which moved actually to Taiwan or different countries, didn't really have a barrier to advertisement. And while there have been some fall down from that, we've seen Binance fined and CZ arrested in the US and being finally free again after spending a little bit of time arrested. But there are basically exchanges in other countries tend to be a lot more bold about the way they operate. And in the US, the biggest one, Coinbase, is actually publicly listed, which make it very easy to move forward and do advertisement. I do believe most crypto exchanges we've seen in the US also spend a lot of advertisement. FTX did buy sport teams on Stadium and different things. Other exchanges also do that. I believe Crypto.com. Probably a lot of others do. But from European side, there's probably less of, how to say this, drive to be bold, which caused this current situation.
Do you think that with the new regulations in Europe, more exchanges will start to pop up in the EU and also will be able to have success on a global stage?
I do believe the MiCA regulation will be a major stepping stone to allow a lot of exchanges to start operating. I do know there are a lot of companies starting to operate in Europe. We are one of these, of course. I heard about quite a few other ones also aiming for the MiCA license. So I know it's going to get busy in Europe, but the question will be most likely to be successful to target not only Europe, but become a much broader exchange. And that's where I believe the experience I've got with Mongox will also be helpful, knowing that Mongox did work through licenses. There were no crypto licenses at the time, but we did get financial licenses in different locations. And we engaged with regulators 10 years ago, I believe in more than 20 countries, explaining what Bitcoin is, what the crypto exchange is, and trying to get the regulator to either give us guidance or give feedback so that lawmakers can put together regulations that then we could follow.
But do you think there's still room for other big exchanges, given that the big names are already very big and dominating the market?
I do believe so. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing otherwise. But it's a market that's failing very quickly in Europe, but which has still a very high bar of entry. So in the US, for example, getting the license typically has a very high cost. And even with the financial ability, there's also need to have the proper security, technology, compliance, different other things that can be difficult to set up right. My goal with ElipX is not only to be a global exchange, but also to be a model exchange, which means creating procedures and making sure that everything is transparent so that it's visible for the exchanges, and basically create a blueprint of how an exchange can be made in a fully safe and easy to use way.
Mm-hmm. How long would it take basically to take business away from the big ones? I mean, what do you have to offer to convince customers to shift from the big exchanges to smaller ones that are not well known, that don't have a track record, and are located in a different continent?
Yeah, actually, I do think there's quite a bit of appeal from that. The big names, while they tend to have a lot of market, at the same time are lacking a few things. One of the main thing I'm seeing is the lack of transparency. For example, it took an event like FTX for big names to start publishing proof of reserves again. And while it seems to be lasting a bit longer for now, I do remember we had the same thing when Mongo's hack happened. Basically, the Mongo's hack happened. Everyone would start to push proof of reserves to show that they had all the assets they need to have. And 6 months, 1 year later, they stopped updating it, and it just disappears until the next hack. I think that transparency, and especially making sure all the assets are held for the customers and everything as an exchange is done by the books, need to be not something that's done after another exchange is hacked or when something bad happens, but it should be the norm. And that's one of the things I'm trying to push for.
Mm-hmm. Then, yeah, please.
Sorry, it's Emma Cherian again. In the Mongo's time, you own many of the Bitcoins in it, right? So now do you plan to own, or in your personal portfolio, in your investments, what is the crypto percentage? Can you share? And for the new exchange, do you also plan to own a majority, a large chunk of it?
Yes, so actually with Mongox, because of the way the exchange works, we had fees we collected from customers which were part crypto and part cash, which meant that each time someone traded, that means there was someone buying, someone selling, we would be taking a fee from both sides. Of course, the same thing happens with ElipX, and we also are collecting fees both in crypto and cash. I do not think that ElipX will sell any of its crypto, so we will be holding over time a fair amount of crypto, which, by the way, with what happened with Mongox, actually, while I did own crypto back then and actually had everything else on Mongox, with the bankruptcy, of course, I did lose everything. And I'm not due to receive anything from the Mongox bankruptcy, just to be clear. So I'm not getting even a single yen from this.
So,
No.
Coming back to the cryptocurrency regimes in different countries, do you think that it is also maybe beneficial for customers or and viable for customers to move away from the United States because they are afraid of being tracked? Financial supervision if you're based in the United States? Maybe.
Well, it's a little bit of a complex story, I believe, but there's a lot of people, especially in the US, who are turning to crypto as a way to control their own money. I'm not American, so I don't know exactly how things are in the US. I haven't got the first-person experience of it. But I've seen a lot of people in the US moving away from the US for different reasons, or using crypto because they don't want the government to have an overview on their assets. Personally, I think that people can take the decisions they want for themselves, even if someone was to invest everything into crypto, for example, they would still have to declare it for tax purposes and so on. So it shouldn't make any difference. Of course, everyone makes their own decision on that thing. But yeah, I do think, there was a lot of different reasons why people adopt crypto. For what I've seen, one of the major reasons why for investment. So buying crypto, selling at a higher price. I do think it's still today, especially for every cryptocurrency which has a very high volatility, it's still a big use. We've seen a lot of more and more games and usages based on smart contracts, which also I believe are very good because it's one way the technology can be used that is positive. And of course, there are some people storing their assets in a way that they believe is better to give to their kids or just to save in case of need in the future. So yeah, there are different uses we've seen. And while I'm quite happy about all of this, I cannot condone, of course, trying to do anything illegal with crypto. There have been people doing this. There are a lot of, especially anything a bit larger being caught. Really, cryptocurrencies are not the way to do these kind of things because every single transaction remains on the blockchain, which ends being evidence that can be used if anything bad is done. So we've seen people doing this. Even the way, for example, Silk Road was run, in the end, a lot of the transactions were tracked on the blockchain and could be tracked to individuals. So that's really not a good thing to do.
Okay, then one of my last questions then. You gave us a little bit overview about over the market. What I would be interested in how you see the different regimes in the United States, Europe, and Japan. You mentioned already, you talked a little bit about it, but could you compare the differences in the regulation between these three markets?
Yes, of course. Actually, I think that right now, as of today, it's still very difficult to operate, especially as a crypto exchange, in all three jurisdictions. The reason being Europe, Europe has MiCA, but it's going into force January 1st of next year, so it's still coming to go, and it's going to make things a lot easier. But for the US, actually each state has their own rules. And typically to operate as a crypto exchange, there is a need to register in almost every state where an exchange has customers. So some states have decided not to require registration, or it's a lot easier, but some states are very complex to get into. So it's like having one country, but actually you have 40-something regulations that you need to abide to and regulation you need to register with. Compared to this, Europe right now is the same situation with multiple countries, each having their own rules, but it's going to become with MICA one entity, which will make a lot of things much easier. And right now, I believe both the US and Europe is fairly open to new businesses, especially in crypto exchanges on stable coins. And compared to this, Japan is right now lagging behind quite a bit, I believe, because we did hear about, for example, stable coins coming to Japan. I did read an announcement last year that said something about June of this year, but then nothing happened in June and it's being delayed. And I hear that it's taking a lot of time to get everything approved and going through, which isn't surprising, but I mean, I'm always going to say that I'm a bit sad about the situation here because I like Japan quite a lot. I moved to Japan because I love this country and a lot of things I like about Japan. Despite everything that happened, getting arrested, visiting parts of Japan that nobody would want to visit, I'm still here and I'm still trying to do things, which I believe shows that I'm quite, I mean, I want to be here and do things. So I'm, as I said, a bit sad, and I'd really hope to see things a little bit more open in Japan. So if we want to start a new exchange in the US, it's painful and costly because there's a need to return to every single state, and it can take a lot of time. In Europe, it's much easier today, and it's going to get a lot easier with MICA. And in Japan, it's just not possible today. You can put together an application, send it to the FSA, and you're not going to get a response.
Are there other markets, other countries that you think are a benchmark for good regulation?
I did have a look at Singapore, which actually has a quite comprehensive regulation for cryptocurrencies, which I was surprised actually because I was expecting maybe something more, a little bit on the lighter side, but it's very well made. I do believe there's a scale where people put on one side regulation and basically protecting end users and innovation on the other side. Japan has put everything on the regulation side and forcing everything to be 100% safe, but at the same time inhibiting any kind of innovation. US and Europe has a more balanced approach, maybe more on the regulation side, but I do believe Singapore has something more on the innovation side with slightly lower barrier of entry, but still fairly well made.
Yeah, we get another online question from
Yes.
Pedro Yanes, FN News Agency. How do you expect to regain the trust of your customers after Mt. Gox? What new actions will you adopt in your new company?
Sorry, what new?
What new actions will you adopt in your actions?
Actions. So yes, I mean that's also one so I would say people involved into cryptocurrencies is basically there's this saying which is verify, don't trust, which is when you participate into something, verify, look into how it works instead of just blindly trusting that it's good or not. And that's one of the reasons why I believe transparency is very important, because by creating a transparent exchange, we make it possible for end users and for the crypto community at large to be able to believe into something that comes from me, basically, after all those years, not because of my name or because of whoever name is behind it, but because they can look into it and basically decide for themselves, which is for me, I believe one way to regain trust just by opening everything and showing here how it's done and how we've done it, and you can look into it. If you find anything, of course, I'm happy to talk about it. And we live in a world where security is a constant fight for improvement. But yeah, as I said, I believe that the idea of, that's the same reason. Why would you trust another exchange? Most people today would trust an exchange because there's a lot of people trusting it, which is, it makes sense in one way, but exchanges today are not transparent enough. I believe there's a lot of work that remains to be done here. Mm-hmm. So it's both a way for me to not need trust, but actually show how things are done. And at the same time, I'm trying to make this a standard for the crypto industry.
Oh, I see another question coming in.
Yes.
Good. So, okay, Richardson Hanjaya from Animenomics freelance. Okay, some in the entertainment sector see cryptocurrency as an opportunity for people like animation and video game creators to earn additional income and revenue from their fans, especially given recent events like layoffs in the video game sector and low wages in animation. What do you think about the future of cryptocurrency in entertainment?
Actually, it's an interesting question too, because I am slightly involved into animation production. I have a friend who is making anime, who actually did NFT based on the anime he's making in order to raise money to actually make the anime. So I do believe that's something that's possible with cryptocurrencies. There are different ways this can be done. But as I said, there's a lot of things we don't know yet we need, or we don't know yet how to do, that we're still in a very new world, which is quite exciting for me, because when we see a new use for cryptocurrencies, it might be something that's not going to work, so we just try to do it, but then nobody actually uses it, and it dies into being forgotten. Or it can very quickly become huge, which we've seen happening with a lot of crypto games. But not only that, we've seen NFTs going up very quickly. We've seen a lot of things happening into crypto that wouldn't have been possible normally. And I do think it represents actual needs or actual things people want, which basically is what entertainment is. So I do think there's a lot of things to be done between entertainment and cryptocurrencies too.
You mentioned that some aspects are still missing. Could you explain a little bit what's still missing?
Basically, what I mean is that a lot of this is new technology. We're doing things that nobody has done before. And we don't know yet if, for example, doing something is going to work or not. If doing something specific, like for example, when someone launch NFT or creates a new product using cryptocurrencies, we don't know if it's going to work from day one. If we knew, it wouldn't be fun, basically. But I do like seeing new technologies being made this way, because on one side we have people working on building new things, and being able to deliver this directly to end users fairly quickly, which means we can see fairly quickly also if it's interesting or not. And that allowed some cryptocurrency-based game to evolve and get larger very quickly. So I do think that's something that's fairly interesting.
Mm-hmm. could you explain to the uninitiated how this works? What these games, for example, are based on, and how basically connecting to your customer base works? Is it NFT based, or what are the technologies behind it?
Well, it's actually a fairly wide discussion because each game tends to have their own system and their own mechanics around cryptocurrencies. One thing you can see is items that can be used in game to be NFTs. So you could have a very good sword that you found inside the dungeon, and instead of using it, you could put it on a marketplace and sell it as the NFT. Or you could use it to put, for example, on your Twitter or Facebook profile. There's different things that can be done with cryptocurrencies. Another thing that could be done is you could create kind of a community for people with, for example, clear the specific dungeon in game and verify that people who come to this community really are who they claim to be thanks to this NFT. So there's different ways things can be implemented in crypto. I do believe that NFTs as a ticket of entry actually work quite nicely too. That is being used not only online but also in the real world. I've seen clubs selling tickets as NFTs, so you would need to have your mobile phone sign something at the entrance to prove that you own the NFT. And that's kind of uses that are possible thanks to technology that we couldn't do before, basically.
Okay, I think our hour is over. Do we have other questions from our online audience? No? Okay, then thank you very much for taking your time.
Yep.
And hope to see you again
Yeah, thank you very much.
in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Yeah.